When he reached the compound, the house was dark, save for the dull glow of embers in the fire pit. Everyone was already inside, their laughter and chatter from earlier long gone. Quietly, Chike placed the cutlass by the door and slipped into his corner of the room, the one space that was his alone. A simple mat on the floor, tucked away from where Naya and her children slept. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft sounds of the night. His fingers itched to touch the flute, to play it, to see if the spirit's words had any truth. Carefully, he pulled it out and examined it in the dim light. The bone flute was smooth, its surface marked with ancient carvings that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Taking a deep breath, Chike brought the flute to his lips and blew a soft, tentative note. The sound that came from the flute wasn't just music. It was something else entirely. The note was gentle, like the wind rustling through the tall trees of the forest, but it carried with it a strange warmth that filled the room. The shadows seemed to dance in the corners, and the cool air around Chike grew warmer, more comforting, like a mother's embrace. Chike's eyes widened as he continued to play. The simple, haunting melody flowed from the flute, and with each note, he could feel something shifting around him. The room, which had always felt cold and unwelcoming, now seemed alive with light. For a brief moment, Chike thought he could smell his mother's scent, faint but familiar, like the flowers she used to weave into her hair. "Mama," Chike whispered, his fingers trembling as he lowered the flute. He sat in silence for a moment, listening to the fading echoes of the music. The warmth in the room lingered, wrapping around him like a soft blanket, and for the first time in what felt like years, Chike felt peace. But peace didn't last long in Nia's house. From the other side of the room, a voice broke the stillness. "What are you doing?" Chike jumped, turning to see Uzo, Nia's eldest son, standing in the doorway. His eyes narrowed as he stepped closer, his lips curling into a sneer. "What's that?" Uzo pointed at the flute in Chike's hands, his eyes gleaming with suspicion. Chike quickly tucked the flute into his tunic, hiding it from view. "It's nothing," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Uzo's gaze lingered on Chike for a moment longer, his eyes narrowing. He said nothing more, but the look on his face told Chike everything he needed to know. Uzo had seen the flute, and Uzo was curious. The next morning, the house was filled with the usual sounds of chores, brooms sweeping, pots clanging, Nia barking orders at Chike. But something was different. There was a tension in the air, a sense that something was brewing beneath the surface. Chike moved through his tasks quietly, his thoughts still swirling around the flute and the spirit's words. He didn't know what to make of it yet, but a part of him wanted to play the flute again, to see if the magic was real or just a trick of his imagination. As he carried a basket of firewood into the house, he caught sight of Uzo whispering to Nia in the corner of the courtyard. Uzo's eyes flicked toward Chike, and Nia's expression darkened. "Chike!" Nia called out, her voice sharp. "Come here." Chike hesitated, but there was no avoiding her. He set the basket down and walked over to where they stood. "Uzo tells me you were playing some kind of flute last night," Nia said, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "Is that true?" Chike's heart raced. He could feel the weight of Uzo's stare on him, daring him to lie. I was just... Where did you get it?" Nia's voice hardened, her eyes narrowing. "Speak up." Chike's throat tightened. He didn't want to tell her about the spirit, about the gift he had received in the forest. He knew, deep down, that Nia would never understand. But he couldn't lie. Not to her. Not after what the spirit had said about honesty. "A spirit gave it to me," Chike said quietly, his voice barely audible. "When I went to get Father's cutlass." Nia's eyes widened, a flicker of something dangerous passing across her face. Uzo leaned in closer, his interest piqued. "A spirit, you say?" Nia repeated, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And it just gave you a flute? Just like that?" Chike nodded, his stomach twisting with unease. He knew that look in Nia's eyes. It was the same look she had when she spoke of things she wanted, things she couldn't have. "And what does this flute do, Nia asked, her voice syrupy sweet. "What makes it so special?" I don't know," Chike admitted, looking down at his feet. "The spirit said it would bring good things." Nia's smile grew wider, but it was a cold, calculating smile. She didn't believe in the spirit's magic, at least not the way the elders did, but she believed in power, and if this flute had power, she would make sure it was hers. Later that night, as the house grew quiet and the village settled into sleep, Nia called Uzo and Obina into the main room. The fire flickered weakly in the hearth, casting long shadows on the walls as Nia leaned in, her voice low. "We can't let Chike have something so valuable," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with greed. "If a spirit gave him that flute, then the spirits must give the same to you. Why should he have all the good things while we get nothing?" Uzo smirked, nodding eagerly. "What do you want us to do, Mama?" Nia's smile returned, but there was nothing warm about it. "We'll do exactly what Chike did. Tomorrow you'll go to the farm, leave a tool there on purpose, and then go back at night to fetch it. If a spirit shows itself to you, you'll take what it offers." Obina, who had been silent until now, shifted uncomfortably. "But what if the spirit doesn't appear?" Nia's gaze snapped to him, sharp as a knife. "It will appear. Just do as I say." The next day, just as Nia had planned, Uzo and Obina forgot a tool at the farm, a rake left purposefully among the crops. That night, Uzo set off toward the forest, lantern in hand. The path was dark, the trees tall and imposing, but Uzo wasn't afraid. Unlike Chike, Uzo didn't believe in the spirits, not the way Chike did. He only believed in what he could see, what he could touch, and if there was gold or silver to be had, he wanted it. When Uzo reached the farm, the same mist that had surrounded Chike appeared, swirling around the crops like a living thing. And from that mist, the same spirit emerged, its form glowing faintly in the darkness. "What are you looking for, boy?" the spirit asked, its voice soft but cold. Uzo didn't hesitate. He wasn't interested in pleasantries or respect. "I'm here for my rake," he said flatly. The spirit's eyes glinted, and with a wave of its hand, the same 4 tools appeared before him. A golden rake, a silver one, a diamond-encrusted one, and a simple wooden rake. "Which one is yours?" the spirit asked. Uzo's eyes lit up at the sight of the golden rake. His heart raced with greed as he pointed to it. "The golden one. It's mine." The spirit's face darkened, its eyes narrowing in disappointment. "Are you sure?" "Of course," Uzo said, his voice eager. The spirit's lips twisted into a frown, but it handed him the golden rake without another word. Then, just as it had done with Chike, the spirit offered Uzo a flute. "Play," the spirit said, its voice sharp, "and let us see what kind of music your heart holds." Uzo grinned, taking the flute without a second thought. He raised it to his lips and blew a loud, brash note, expecting the same magic Chike had experienced. But the sound that came out wasn't music. It was a harsh, discordant noise, jarring and unpleasant. The spirit winced, stepping back as the other spirits that had been watching from the shadows began to whisper angrily. "Enough!" the spirit snapped, its voice echoing through the night. "You have no music in your heart, boy. Leave and take what you have claimed." Uzo's smug grin faltered. He quickly lowered the flute, the eerie whispers of the spirit sending a chill down his spine. Without another word, he turned and ran back toward the village, clutching the golden rake in his hands, but the sound of the flute's ugly music still echoed in his ears. The path back to the village was dark, and Uzo's mind was racing. His heart pounded in his chest and his fingers tightened around the golden rake. The spirit's angry whispers still echoed in his ears, and the discordant sound of the flute gnawed at him like an itch he couldn't scratch.